Deuteronomy 28. And it shall come to pass if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High thy power, to observe and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Most High God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. But if thou wilt not hearken to the voice of the Most High, to observe and do all his commandments, then curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. All these lies and delusions wake me up, show me a new dawn, open your eyes, rise, children of the light. I am awake, Seek out the ways of the heathen to make a covenant with Satan's government. Turn their face away from the Most High, evil desire. 2 Kings 17 said they passed their sons and daughters in the fire. They began cutting divine spiritual ties, cleaving to the heathen lies. Evil spirits bind, breaking souls, breaking spirits, ripping flesh, breaking minds. Running from the Most High wrath on the blood-stained path. 70 AD, Israelites fell. The Most High's chosen seed go into captivity. Hebrew Israelites watch nations rise. They watch nations fall. Four beasts, Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece. We pray for the fall of the fourth beast. Under the iron through the wrong, we long to go home. A hopeless nation lies dead in the valley of the dry bones. Simulation of Shemites to Hamite clones. Israelites wrong. All these lies and delusions wake me up, show me a new dawn, open your eyes, rise, children of the light. I am awake,
Wow, Vernon, man, that was beautiful. Thanks, man. I appreciate you much for how you put this music out there and help me overall and things that they can't even see on this line. This is Yonathan. We be here on what they call the 22nd of August, 2021, on the famous WFBR 1590 AM. Wow. Now, so you can find that, brother. I put it on social media this morning. That is Minister Michael Norman. I might put a few more on about Minister Michael Norman, called Awakening. Because you know what? Knowledge is increasing. This is the last days. If you don't know it, then you're not alive. You're not. We are awakening, and they are in fear. You're gonna find out about this because we are in the first. There's only 11 more to go. I've been doing this a year now on this particular series. 12 portions. This is number 44, Debarim. The Greeks in the Septuagint call it the Deuteronomy, second law, but it's Debarim, words. And you're going to find out how deep this is. This is a powerful way to end off these 12 portions is with words. Awake. Awake. How are you going to wake up? Unless you understand, not just understanding, discerning. Debarim is the genesis of all things. Even we speak our realities into existence. The Midianites hired Balaam. Remember, Balak was afraid, scared. They're like, what can we do? These people are coming, they're coming. And the Midianites say, hey, you can hire, their power, the power of these people is in their words, is in how they speak, is in what they say. So this is why they advised Balak to hire Balaam, because they recognized Israel's power came from their mouth. They recognized Israel's power. So the original Debar blessed us, though. The original Debar, the original word from Yahweh blessed us. So how then can we be cursed? Well, so this battle of Balaam versus Moshe was word versus word. And in the end, we know what happened, really. They won. They won not by the magic of their words, because it cannot annul Yahweh's words. They won by having us turn our own words on ourselves. Our own words. And this is why this ministry is Yahweh for Christians is original words, original truth. To get you to truly wake up and understand when you open this Bible what it is saying. Because right now, we're following after cheap magic tricks of name it and claim it, blab it and grab it. And when you read this Bible, you do not see yourself in it. You're reading these words. You're reading words that come from the language of slavery. How can what are we thinking? How can English or any language lead you to truth when it does not come from the truth? When the speakers of it do not love Yahweh, they're going to teach you how to learn of yourself and to learn of them, who they are. It has to lead you to error. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. Is that emet? Is that truth? In the beginning, God, anything. That's what this whole thing was of Yahweh versus Pharaoh. Pharaoh says, I am the only begotten of the begetter. That's what he said. And Yahweh killed him right in the Nile that he was spewed from by Esau, Edomites. Created that man out of the river and put him up there, and they were his magicians. Listen, this whole redemption journey story is vivid and visually stunning. Literally, it is a very vivid narrative, this whole journey. As a matter of fact, the entire Bible is vivid, and it titillates your whole senses, all 6 of your senses. 6. That's not stutter. If you understand more of what it is saying, which we don't, and we are very dull and dull when we read this KJV. But just to give you a little idea, and we just talking about this journey. We're not talking about the entire 5 books. But you have the burning bush. Stand there, pick up yourself, close your eyes, and put yourself in Moshe's spot, seeing a burning bush unconsumed. How vivid and beautiful that is. Then how about the leprous hand, contrasted with his beautiful bronze skin? You know, put your hand inside your cloak and then take it out, and then you got this white leprous skin juxtaposed against your beautiful brown skin. How about Pharaoh himself, who was a blue-green in color? He was a blue-green colored mankind, I should say. How about the bloody Nile? How do you think that looked? What image is that painting in your head when you see pure blood coming from the rod of Aharon, and it circles out and spreads out to the Nile? How visually stunning is that? How about the blood on the doorpost? Every house that believed and every house that was afraid, because there was tens of thousands of Edomites who did the same thing, sitting at their tables and looking at their doorposts and seeing the blood of goats and rams on the lintel of their doorposts. How about that visual image? How about the very image of the mixed multitude that came out of the Exodus? A mixed multitude, a beautiful array of melanin mixed and rich type peoples. Of the whole range was represented. How about the fire by night and the pillar by day? How visually stunning do you think that was to be going? We've all been in the woods. We've all went camping. We've all walked around. Can you imagine seeing a pillar of fire at night? And on the day, a cloudy pillar? How visually stunning is that? How about the Sea of Reeds itself? The Sea of Reeds, and how visually stunning that must have looked to see that thing open up. How about the golden ox? The golden ox that represented Yahweh. Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it is pictographically an ox. This is why they made a golden ox. And the Arab Rav said, "This is your mighty one," because he knew that we could understand the ox and what it represented. How about the brass serpent? How Moshe made a brass serpent, which comes from copper and tin, which was made by Esau further up north of them. And so this is Moshe, one of the many times trying to show them, listen, this is who's guiding you. This is who's pulling your strings. See this brass serpent? Do you know who this is? This is who's infecting you. How about the very idea of the beautiful look of the priest's attire? The attire of the Kohanim is visually stunning, and it's textured and it's beautiful, and the array of colors, all the 12 tribes are in there, and the gold and the pomegranates. The attire itself is stunning. There is no better dressed man in the history of the earth than one of Yahweh's priests, especially the chief priest, the Kohen Gadol. How about the wilderness of sin, which was clay? You know, Yahweh made Adam out of clay, ruddy clay, and they went through a wilderness of clay. This again, it speaks to you, Yahweh's people. And what did we do in the wilderness of sin, which is the wilderness of clay? Refuse to be molded by Yahweh. These are deep. I'm giving you deep stuff. You just read through it and you don't see the deeper things in it. This is why most people are not appreciating it like I do. That's why Yahweh put me here to do this. Because he knows when I read this word, I've seen it deeper. I'm literally physically seeing these images in my brain, which I'm trying to give to you, and I'm falling. I pray Yahweh strengthen me so not to fall short of that. To get you to love these so-called books of Moshe, this boring stuff. But that wilderness of sin, the wilderness of clay, has a deep visual image to he or she who understands what it is saying. That it's the look of Yahweh's people, and we refuse to be molded. Which you take, how about Sinai, which means muddy. Man, you don't even hear that nobody time. Sinai, mud. Yahweh's muddy people. We're made from the earth, and the earth looks like us. That's why we look like we do. Various shades of brown and black, which is the natural color and terrain of the earth. So we're supposed to have gotten married right there at Sinai. Yahweh showing how we look and how he looks at Sinai. How about the Surat laws? Very detailed, because remember, we came out of mixed people. So Yahweh was very detailed in the laws of Surat, of this breakout of the skin and the lesions of the skin, and whether one is Kodesh or not Kodesh, what was an infection, what was not an infection. It went in great detail, and if you read this thing as it is sent out to be, understand how a person looks no matter what their skin color originally looked like, and how it looks no matter what kind of Surat was coming up. That is visually stunning, because remember, some of these people looked like regular white people, and some people became totally depigmented, which is a albino person, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's visually stunning. How about Pinchas? I guarantee like 99% of you never knew that Pinchas' name means the bronze one. Bronze. And this, you know what the judgment that Pinchas put on those two who was having sex in front of the tent of meeting. The bronze one. How beautifully stunning is that? That leads you to Daniel, Revelation, the 3 Hebrew boys were in the oven. How did Nebuchadnezzar knew that one of those men was the son of Yahweh, that it was Yahweh Shua? He said, one of those men like the son of man. How do you think he knew what that man looked like? How about Moshe's Cushite wife, this beautiful black woman? How about when they went through the wilderness of Libnah, which means whiteness? So you got these Yahweh's people contrasted with the wilderness of whiteness. And they came out of this wilderness of whiteness after they showed their, after Ramon Perez, which is a breach of their righteousness. You know, the pomegranates represent righteousness. This is why Yahweh had the fringes, or the borders, the bottom borders of his priests wearing pomegranates. Pomegranates represents righteousness. And look how beautiful and red the pomegranate is. You open it up and see the red seeds and the white husk around each seed. That's visually stunning. And so I said last week how these journeys, the names of the journeys gives you a deeper understanding of the narrative. It's not just happenstance. Yahweh made Moshe told him write these things down for a reason. And here they went to the land of whiteness after they showed how they were unrighteous when they spoke Lashon Hara against Moshe for his black wife. And then how about the 12 beautiful, colorful standards of each tribe? Each tribe has its own color. Vibrant color. They have their standards out, their flags, and you look over the mountains. I mean, Balaam couldn't curse them. He see how beautiful we were. Ordered and under our own standards, our own colors. Beautiful. No other people on earth tabernacles like that. No one else camped like that. In order, and everything was just so pristine and clean. We cleaned up after ourselves. We didn't have waste and poop around, flies and stuff going around. and everybody had their own colors. I mean, that's visually stunning. If you look at the colors of each tribe and seeing tens and tens of thousands under that color, and then the next color, and then the next, and the next. This is beautiful. How about the Hazon creature that we still don't really know what kind of creature it is, who has blue blood? And that blue blood was used for dye for that one, for the single strand that goes on our seats. How beautiful was that, to see thousands of men and women with their clothes with seats on, and this blue dye strand on each side of their clothing? How beautiful is that? Wow, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Are you understanding what I'm understanding? We are Yahweh's bling. We out here wasting money, giving it to the man, putting gold chains in our necks. Just being a man and woman of Yah made you look beautiful. Just walking in the desert, you was a bling. How about the Ruddy Heifer? How vivid is that? The Ruddy Heifer that you don't hear people talking about. They're representing one of the representations of Yahweh Shua. How it propitiates our sins. Notice how the Ruddy Heifer was not mentioned with all the other sacrifices in Leviticus and Wayikra. The Ruddy Heifer, when it finally was talked about, was separate because it is not part of the bloody sacrifices. Oh, you getting why? Are you getting that? The bloody sacrifices has its place, but the Ruddy Heifer was separate. Blood covers, water washes, water cleans. Ding, 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 ding. Are you getting it? So, I can do really this narrative I just gave about the visual look of this journey that we went through. I can do the same thing for the hearing, for the taste, for textures and everything. I can do all that for you. But why don't you just read it and look at it and do it yourself and see it more deeply. Now, here we are in Debarim words, the first of the last 11 Torah portions as we end this thing out. We're going to talk about the chief's appointment and the recounting of the 12 spies incidents. Where, one of the things that is not noticed, now I'm just really looking at this myself, how really after that 12 spies incidents, even the relationship with Yahweh and Moshe changed a little bit. It changed a little bit, and we'll talk about that. And then it's going to talk about the recounting of the encounter with the Edom, Ammon, Sihon, Og, the land assignments of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. Now, Deuteronomy. This is Yonathan Dawid with you here, y'all. Yahweh for Christians on WFPR, the famous WFPR 1590 AM. Deuteronomy is our introduction to the new life we will have to forge in Kodesh Eretz. So it's a brand new life. Crossing the Jordan, remember, our forefathers before this group crossed the Sea of Reeds. So here, crossing the Jordan was cease the constant visual presence of Yahweh carrying us as a father carries his son. In chapter 1, verse 31, that is the image that Moshe gave us, is that we were like Yahweh's son, that he carried us on his shoulders all of this time. Now, as we cross the Jordan, he lays us down off his shoulders. By that time, after seeing all 40 years of miracles, we should be able to walk a little bit in faith. No longer is you going to see the image of the fire by night or the pillar and cloud by day. No longer. No longer you're going to open up your flaps of your tent and have food right there laying on the ground waiting for you to just pick up and eat. No longer. You're going to have to plow, pick, and plant. That's what you're going to have to do. So we're going to need the Torah and faith and discipline now, really, to rebuff the temptations to the snares of all of our pagan neighbors that's going to be all around us now. This is what this is, Deuteronomy. So Deuteronomy stresses our laws and values. This book they call Deuteronomy, Debarim words is really what it should be called. Debarim stresses our laws and values, exhorting us to be strong and representing Yah to the world. We would then be married to him and bring in the nations as well. See, this is what Israel is not really getting, and even us, we're not today. We're supposed to get married at Sinai, at the muddy place. Supposed to get married there. We didn't because of golden ox. So we still are in covenant with Yahweh. So we're still betrothed to him. And what we're supposed to do is, we're supposed to be representing. Represent. You hear that on the streets, representing. We're supposed to be representing him right now. because this is not just for us. It ain't just about, it's not even about us in the first place. But it's not just for us. We're supposed to represent and bring in others. This is what we're supposed to do as we go out into our new world. Crossing the Jordan, and the whole meaning of Hebrew is crossover. Crossing over. Crossing over from the life you once had to a life that you will have, which is a better life, an eternal life. So this book, this is why this one book right here is the one most quoted by Yahweh Shua. More than any other book, he quoted this one. And it records the parts of the Torah that was most relevant to us in our own new home. So Debarim is again unique in that the first 4 books were spoken directly by Yahweh through the vessel Moshe. Here, Moshe himself is speaking directly to us. All the Torah here in his final 5 weeks of life. Because he only got, at this time, 5 weeks of life left. Whereas before, Yahweh was speaking, resonating through the vessel we call Moshe. That's what was going on. No, Yahweh did not do this with anybody else in the history of man. He directly spoke through those Moshe's mouth opening, Yahweh speaking through that vessel. Now, after this though, in this book, this is Moshe, Yahweh talking to Moshe, and then Moshe talking to us, and he's recounting all of our history for those first so-called 5 books. This is Moshe speaking under the inspiration of Yahweh. This is just like any other prophet, which is a good thing. All the other prophets, Yahweh spoke to them, and then they spoke to us. It was inspired by Ruach HaKodesh, directly the word. They spoke the words of Yahweh, but it was them doing it. Yahweh didn't speak through Jeremiah or Yeshayah or Amos or Daniel. They spoke, but they spoke the words given to them. Whereas Moshe was the actual oracle, the only ever oracle. He was the oracle, the actual oracle, a physical limited being was housing the word of Yahweh as it went through it. Everyone else, Yahweh spoke to them, then they spoke. So we get hints of that throughout the book. I ain't going to chapter 1 verse 42 to 9 and 3 2 so forth. But I'm going to go on. So now let's read chapter 1 verse 1. So this Torah portion, as I told you last week, goes from Deuteronomy 1:1 through 3:33. The half Torah portion, I just decided this morning that I might go ahead later in the year start doing the half Torah portions because they are beautiful also. I'm leaning now very strongly to doing that. This is from Deuteronomy 1:1 to 3:33. Now in chapter 1, verse 1, and it reads, these are the words which, let me say this. These are the Debarim which Moshe spoke to all of Israel on this side of Yarden, in the wilderness, in the plain opposite Suf, between Paran, Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. Remember I talked about that word Suf. So here we see that these words that he spoke to the whole house of Israel, Moshe employs the journey names to implant into the minds of Israel their rebellious history. This is what I've been saying for weeks. What Moshe is going to do is he's going to highlight, this journey based on the names that speaks to what happened at that time. This is going to inculcate in their sulcus of their minds, give them an image of what their forefathers did. Because remember, they were children. They didn't rebel. They were children. So this is going to let them know, hey, this is what your forefathers did at this stop, that stop, and that stop, and this stop. And this is deep. And this is why I say to understand original words. It'll help you understand this better. In verse 3, he recounts the 40th year. And this is the last 5 weeks of his life. And he recounts on the 40th year of Sebat, which is the 11th month, which to us, that will be February, on the first day. He died around the 7th of Adar, around March. In verse 4, Moshe shows, Moshe led them in Sihon and Og. This let them know that this man is not just running his mouth and telling us what to do. He is a warrior himself. Go down to verse 7. I'm going to read verse 7 of chapter 1 of Debarim. Turn and take your journey and go to the mountains of Amorites, to all the neighboring places in the plain and the mountains and to lowlands and the south of the seacoast, to the land of the Canaanites and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. Wow. And remember, they never went all up there. They never did all that. And some of these things were not even listed in Numbers 34 when we first went through this in Numbers 34, 1 through 12. But way back in Genesis 15, 18, and 19, this is what Yahweh promised Abraham. Well, you see that Yahweh is including these lands because this is what was promised to Abraham. But we never took all the land. We never did. We never did what we were told to do. Even when we got in, we never got all the land. In verse 8, it reads, see, I have set the land before you. Go and possess the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give to them and to their descendants after them. Moshe, who he's alluding to how, no, this is verse 8. Okay, so this is powerful. I read, Pastor Williams read in Deuteronomy 28:10. I'm going to read it again because it's just deep how I just never saw this so simple. It reads in Deuteronomy, everybody knows Deuteronomy 28. But in verse 10, it says, then all peoples of the earth will see that you are called by the name of Yahweh, and they will be afraid of you. Why? Because you're called by the name of Yahweh. If you read all the verses before that, it's being in obedience. That literally, when you heard the opening song, awake, they are afraid of our awakening. We are making them tremble in fear because you are awakened. And you're awakened and you're going to learn the Torah and you're going to be obeying it. You're going to be keeping the commandments. That gives you power. And what Yahweh said, that if you go take the land, they're going to be afraid of you. They already heard about the plagues that happened on Mizraim. They heard about the opening of the Sea of Reeds. They saw the fall of Og and the Bashan, in the land of Bashan. They saw this. The fame of Israel went throughout all of the Canaan land. They were famous, yet they were afraid. And he's telling them, don't worry about that. Just go and take the land. They're going to give it to you. There will not even be a fight. And they will be your vassals and your servants. But we did not see our power. And even to this day, the man and woman who calls on the name of Yahweh is not seeing how powerful you are. The obedient man and woman of Yahweh who fears Yahweh and keeps his commandments. You have natural power. But what's happening is, you go to verse 13, we are not discerning the voice that we hear. Now, verse 12, let me read verse 12. It reads, how can I alone bear your problems and your burdens and your complaints? This means more than what it's saying here. It's not, Moses not saying, he's not bearing it anyway. He is working, but what he's really saying is that even me, who is the oracle, giving you, you're hearing directly from Yahweh through me, I can't bear it. It's no different than, like I said, none of us got into the car today without driver's manual. Reading the thick old driver's manual on how to drive, make sure we keep all the laws. You naturally know what to do now. But here's the thing, even with the driver's manual, every day there's accidents and mistakes and stuff going on, even with people knowing how to drive. Because what Moshe is saying is just like this. My daughter years ago had an accident where this turn that she made, we do it every day. We did it every day back when we lived there. Nothing to speak of. But that particular day, there was a light mist of snow ice that day, early that morning. So she doing the same thing she does every day, did the same thing on that same turn. She crashed and had an accident. Going by the driver's manual, going by the book, she didn't do anything. She went by the speed limit. She had her lights on. She's driving in the proper lane. She had her seatbelt on. She was doing everything she's supposed to do by the book. But here's the difference. This is what the Torah it can't tell you in writing every last little thing. Is that under those conditions, you cannot go the speed limit. Because if you go the speed limit, you're going to crash. And that's what she did. If you abide by the law, the law said, what, 35 miles an hour? If you take 35 miles an hour, for example, on that turn that day, you have an accident. And that's what she did. So you got to really go against what the driver's manual tell you. We had to go against these 613 sometime to do what is right. This is what Moshe is really saying on a deeper level, that laws is not going to make you righteous. This is deeper. You have to have a relationship with Yahweh. You got to be able to discern. You got to be able to discern between Yahweh's voice and the Erev Rav. And there's only two voices. In verse 17, he talks about how he already had already judges in place. And these judges are to be blind. Like I just told you about this, about my daughter having the accident. What you're supposed to, she followed the law. But let's read verse 17. If you read how they're supposed to adjudicate the law, you would not show partiality in judgment. You will hear the small as well as the great. You will not be afraid of any man's presence, for the judgment is Yahweh's. The case is that too hard for you. Bring it to me, and I will hear it. Nowhere in there, and in all of the talk to the judges, he talks about grace. It's all about enforcing the law, adjudicating the law and enforcing it. It's nothing about grace, nothing about it. So there's a missing element, and what they're not getting is they got the law to get them to the Kodesh land, but grace is going to get them in. That's why Moshe didn't get in. Moshe is the law. Didn't get in. Didn't get in. Verse 23. The plan, please, this is talking about when he told, you always say, okay, go, take the land. They're afraid of you. Y'all just don't know how beautiful and powerful, how beautiful y'all look to me. I'm up here on a throne in Hashemayim looking at you, and man, you look like my bling. Y'all looking good. I'm ready. I'll marry you right now, but y'all can cut the fool with that golden ox. So we're going to still get married, but man, y'all looking good. Got a beautiful face, beautiful hair, hips looking good, shape built like a palace style, Dawid said. So we're looking good, we're strong, beautiful, we just don't know it. And we're afraid, and he tells us to go, but what happens? They talked about, well, let's send some people out to see back up, to co-sign on what Yahweh said. Can you imagine co-signing on what Yahweh say? Come on now. So the plan pleased me, so I took 12 of your men, one from each tribe. He chose the best. And we know what happened. 10 came back like punks and sad and sour mouth with dark clouds over their heads and raining on them. And 2 came back with sunshine. Now, Moshe didn't see Moshe's plan backfire. And this is why the relation changed a little bit, just a little bit between he and Yahweh. Is that he said, you know what? This is ridiculous. Okay, y'all go ahead and go. You're going to see exactly what I've been telling you, what Yahweh's been telling you through me. The land is beautiful. You're going to take it. So go ahead and tell them, bring back some stuff. Let them see how beautiful it is. Not thinking they're going to actually even go at all, let alone go and then come back with a bad report. He didn't expect that. Remember the story of the traveler who wanted to buy a donkey from the farm man. And the man said, listen, take the donkey over hills and dales, take it over valleys and water. Go ahead and try it out, and then buy it. The man was like, what? The traveler said, man, if this man is that confident that he's going to let me take this donkey up to the hills and mountains, through the valleys, through the mud, over all of this, and then buy it, he has confidence in this donkey. I know it's a good buy. And he went on to pay for the donkey without testing it, because the man was not a liar. He knew what this donkey could do. This is what Moshe was doing. Listen, they ain't gonna. First of all, they ain't gonna do this, but they do this and go out and spy the land. They don't come back with a good report. Well, we saw what happened. In verse 26, nevertheless, you would not go up, but rebelled against the commandment of Yahweh your Elohim. See, here's the thing. Really, if you are so unfaithful and don't have doubt, you still should listen to the one with the positive report. This is why. For people who still, all of us who struggle with faith, trust in Yahweh, because if you go and do if they did what Yahushua and Caleb said do, and go, and then the first battle they lost and got beat up and destroyed, then they would know that, hey, they were wrong, and then you just go back to Mizraim. Just go back. Then you just go back. You went out, like Yahweh said, first battle, you got beat up, smacked around, and kicked up the butt. You leave, you go back, they were wrong. But here's the problem of believing in Lashon Hara, believing in the evil tongue, listening to the negativity. This is the problem. You don't go to the land, you go back to Mizraim, and you never find out what the truth was, because you never went. That's why it's always best to be positive, to go with the positive. Because if you do what they did, which is what they did, you never find out. None of them got to even sniff the land. They all died. They all died, never seen the beauty of that land. They should have, you listened to the positivity, because then you can at least find out if they were wrong in their glowing reports. You'll find out as soon as you get there, as soon as you get hit in the mouth. Like Mike Tyson said, everybody got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. You go there, you get banged in the mouth. Caleb and Yahushua lied, and you go back. Simple as that. But what they did is listen to the spies. You never find out, and they didn't. Hallelujah. Now, this thing is too deep. That's why I always run out of time. So as I can see it now, how much time I have left, and I would like to spend even more time. In verse 27, and you complained in your tents and said, because Yahweh hates us, he has brought us out of the land of Mizraim to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. This is deep, and you only can understand the deepnesses of it in Hebrew. But even in English, you're going to see this word about hate. And this terminology sounds like what Yahweh said about Esau. This terminology, even in English, does not speak to what Yahweh says about Yisrael. Nowhere in the book. This is language about hating Esau. This is what I keep telling you about having discernment. Now, this word sons is used juxtaposed with the word congregation. That means nothing to you in English. But in Ibarit, it does mean everything. Son is bane. This, and in pictographic Hebrew, this is why behind me, if you go to my channel, when I put it up on YouTube channel, I have the pictographic Ibarit up. Because I'm the first Hebrew Israelite to show you this, the first one to show you even deeper than the Hebrew words, and it's the pictographic Hebrew. And you get the word bane, and pictographically means the house built on the seed. The seed is the son. Yahweh's building his house on the seed of his son. That's what sons mean. Okay, he's building a house on his seed. His seed is man. Man is upright. What is this juxtaposed against? Adah, the congregation. The congregation pictographically means the door. Watch. See the door? No, here's the pictographic. See the door, beware. Watch. That's what the congregation means. So you see your eyes, see the door, beware of what's out there. And that is the congregation, spurned on by the Erev Rav. Throughout each of this journey, every last journey stop, you had the Erev Rav who was speaking. And they used the word soneh, which means detest, enemy, enmity, hate, intensity, hate her, not hate him, hate her, foe, turn against. And what did they get this from? From the very beginning, when Yahweh told Adam and Madam Hawa that the serpent seed is going to hate the woman's seed, and she's going to hate his seed. This is why this word soneh says hate her, not hate him. And it's intense hate. These words that was used in their tents, this goes to social media today, in the houses. They were not out in the streets saying this. They were not out en masse in the courtyard saying this. They were saying this in their tents. In their tents, house to house to house. Just like fear was in the house of Israel, in each individual house. Fear, like you get fear now looking at the news. Fear looking at all the garbage on social media. Fear gets spurned to us, given to us by the Erev Rav, by Esau, by Edomites. Putting fear in your hearts. Fear not to go and take the land. Fear not to take your destiny. Fear not to stand up upright and be fruitful and multiply in the word of Yahweh here in these last days. Fear to step up and stand up and be a man, a woman, and go forward. Fear spurned on by the Erev Rav. This is what you hear in verse 27 if you read it in Ibarit. This is what you see and understand. That this is Yahweh's seed being attacked by the Erev Rav. And what about this? Verse 34. This is what people missed also. And Yahweh heard the sound of your words and was angry and took an oath and saying. He heard the sound. What do you mean by heard the sound? Heard the sound of the words? I mean, so the words had a sound. We know words. But words on paper, I see the word hate, what does it sound like? I see the word love, what does it sound like? Why is Yahweh talking about the sound of the words? Why is he talking about the coal, the voice of the words? Because each word has its unique character. Each word. This is Hebrew number 69, 63, coal, voice. He heard the voice of the words, not just the words in our tents, crying like babies and afraid, listening to the social media, listening to the news. We're scared of this, Delta virus is going to kill everything and all this kind of stuff, whatever. Jobs are going, the economy is falling, the world is falling apart, and it is. But what do you care if you have a life raft, Yahweh Shua? You're not going down on the Titanic because your heart is not in the Titanic. You're already in the lifeboat. What are you worried about? So he heard the character of their words. This is what it is saying. The character. There's something about the character. Like, I'm not even going to go there. I was going to read Genesis 3:8. When Adam and Eve, they heard the sound of Yahweh coming. Why did he just says they heard the sound? Read Genesis 3:8. It's not just the person or their body or their movements. It's the sound of it. The sound. Each thing, a guitar does not sound like a violin. A violin does not sound like a ukulele. They all have their tools. They have different sounds. They each have that unique characteristic sound. Even twins sound differently. Jacob, Esau. Isaac said, wait a minute. It sounds like Esau. He sounds like Jacob, but he smells like Esau. But these were twins, but they sounded differently. Because sound is the signature of the word. The sound causes the reality. The sound causes the reality. Deuteronomy 4:20. But Yahweh has taken you and brought you up out of the iron furnace of Egypt and brought you into the inheritance to this day. Deuteronomy 4:12. 4:12. And Yahweh spoke to you out of the midst of the fire, and you heard the sound of the words, but saw no form. You only heard a voice. They heard the sound of his words. They couldn't make an image out of it. You can't make an image out of sound. Yahweh did not want us to see an image, because then you would have idolatrous hearts will make that image. So he made sure we heard his words, but the sound, that means the absolute tenor of his words. I'm not going to have time because I already see it running out. Nehemiah 8:8. When Ezra was reading, he wanted them to hear the sound with distinct clarity of the words that was coming out of his mouth. Of the Torah, they was reading the Torah. Moshe was reading the book of Moshe in Nehemiah 8:8, getting them complete discernment. In John 10:27, I was going to read, I'm not going to go there because I run out of time. Yahweh Shua says, my sheep hear my voice, and they recognize my voice. See, when a shepherd is out in the plain, it's not him alone by himself or his sheep. There are many shepherds out and many clusters of sheep. Of course, sheep get on the fringes, on the edges, get wayward, and they can go off to the next cluster. But the shepherd seeing it can call out to that sheep, and that particular sheep knows his shepherd's voice and turns. Sheep have very poor eyesight, but very good hearing. If the other shepherd calls that sheep, hey, come on over, that sheep's going to not come because he's going to not recognize their voice. He recognized the voice of his shepherd. This is why we are called Yahweh's sheep. We're not supposed to go by our own eyesight, our own discernment. We're supposed to go by the voice of Yahweh. And we're supposed to discern between the voice of Yahweh and the voice of the Erev Ra, who are bad shepherds. Yahweh Shua says the other shepherds are bad. They run away to save their own lives. He said they are thieves and robbers. Why are the Erev Ra in so much fear? Why are they talking about this anger and this hatred? Why are they in fear? Their sound of their voice is fear. I'm holding up the Apocrypha. I'm going to read something from the Apocrypha. And this is why the Apocrypha, who was in your regular Bibles for over 200 years, soon as after we got out of so-called slavery and we're beginning to read, we have Bibles, they took the Apocrypha out. But if you read in 2nd Ezra, chapter 6, verses 6 through 9, then did I consider these things, and they were all made through me alone, and through none other. By me also they will be ended, and by none other. Then answered I and said, what will be the partings asunder of the times? Or when will be the end of the first and the beginning of it that follows? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born, of him Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau, because Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. You see that? This signals the end of the world. This is what Yahweh is saying to Ezra. Esau is in fear. He is in fear of you, of your awakening, because he knows your life, your living, your awareness, you're moving forward in Torah, your understanding, you're coming back to the hand of Yahweh Shua, ends his domain. That means our beginning is his end. The beginning of Jacob is the end of Esau. This is why this world is in such hatred and fear right now. You shouldn't be walking around in fear. Not you. You're Jacob. You are the chosen one. He's in fear. He's afraid of you because now you know who you are. He knows you ain't a nigga. You're not a bee. You're not a hoe. You're a king, a queen, a prince, a princess. You're the bling of Yahweh. And he hates that with bloody hatred, because he knows the handwriting is on the wall for the end of his assets. And then we see the heart of Moses. Moses, this is his last will and testament. This last book is really his last will and testament. And his heart is heavy. And you can see it more deeply when you read it in the Hebrew words. He says only, in verse 36, only Caleb's getting in. And Caleb's name means dog. It means an unsophisticated servant. If you pronounce it as Caleb, it's an unsophisticated servant, Caleb. But if you pronounce it as Caleb, it means like heart. Like heart. That means like a heart of a man who has discernment. The wayward sheep is supposed to have discernment between the voice of his shepherd and the voice of the other shepherd. There's many shepherds out there, and there's many flocks of sheep, and they're separated by strips of land. It's easy to get wayward if you're on the fringes. If you hear your shepherd's voice, you turn. So we have Caleb, who, if you want to, the best we call his name Caleb, because he has the heart like a man. He's not just a dog, and he has discernment and understanding. He's from the tribe of Judah, and Judah is the lion of discernment. Now we know the domesticated dog is the most faithful of all creatures. Pictographically, the name of Caleb means to submit to the shepherd that leads to the house. See why I have behind me now in my screen the pictographic Hebrew to help us understand deeper. His name means to submit to the shepherd that leads to the house. His father, I just looked this up this morning, Yefunah, and his name means will turn, will face, which in Hebrew that means teshuva, to turn or repent. So maybe his father was one of the rebels who got a clue and said, you know what, Yahweh's right. And he teshuva in his heart, and he named his son Caleb. He probably named him Caleb, not Caleb, but Caleb. Because here's the thing, even though you repent and turn, it does not annul judgment. Yahweh forgives. Yahweh loves to forgive. His mercies are new every day. But you can't smoke for 60 years and then teshuva, repent and turn, which means you're not going to do it again. Yeah, I guess not. You on a ventilator, I guess you're not going to take another cigarette. But does that mean now Yahweh's going to next morning wake you up with healthy, clear 20-year-old lungs because you teshuva in your heart? No. He forgave you. And you're still going to die with lung cancer, but you're going to at least die forgiven. So Caleb's father, teshuva, he repented, but he still didn't make it to the Holy Land, but his son did. And his son was a humble, loyal servant. And Moshe said, even this man made it in. If you read the next verse 37, you know, all of this is seamless, and you don't, in English, you don't get it. But see, in the next verse 37, Moshe talks about himself and how his culpability in the spies incident. Why would he mention that right at verse 36? with Caleb, because it speaks to how Caleb got in, and this was the beginning of him not going in. Because he really didn't get in because of the rock, but the relationship changed after the 12 spies. But if the rock was represents Yahweh Shua, he smacked him. Smacked it. We're supposed to hit it at all, not this time. And not only did he smack it once, he smacked it twice. And Yahweh Shua says, if somebody smacks you, you give them the other cheek. He didn't say give them a third cheek. You only got 2 cheeks to give. The southern ones stay to you. The north cheeks, you give them that. But after that, there's no more grace. Moshe used up his grace. See, Moshe was supposed to honor Yahweh Shua right there. Because he got it. He got it click. He got it. Because remember, Yahushua in verse 38, then he mentions Yahushua in 38. In verse 38. Verse 36, 37, 38 are all seamless if you read it in Ibarit. You understand it deeper. Because in 38, he sees that he's the one that renamed Hoshua Yahushua. His name was not Yahushua. Moshe gave him that name because he, as a prophet, knew that this man was going to lead him to the Kodesh land. It means Yah. He is salvation. And no one knew the name of salvation until Miriam was given that name. It's a very common name. It's a spin. Yahweh Shua is it's a spin on a very common name, Yahushua. Yahushua is a very common name. Yahweh Shua is just a little spin on it. And that was the name. Moshe came very close to understanding this. Now, wait a minute. He knew that this was bigger than Israel. That was going to lead to something bigger. At the rock, he was supposed to speak the Besor message to Yisrael. He's supposed to say the first gospel, give them the first message of what you call the gospel. That's what he's supposed to do. And water would have came out. He hid it, took up his grace. But he anointed Yahushua to lead us in. I just gave you deep stuff. And Yahushua came from Ephraim. Yahweh Shua said, I came not for anybody but for the lost children of the house of Ephraim. That's what Yahweh Shua said. Yahushua came from Ephraim. Isn't that deep? Doesn't that take you to a full circle? There I go again, making the Torah relevant to you today. I'm not just reading boring old books with cobwebs and dust. I'm making it relevant to you today. Yahushua's father's name was Nun. Pictographically, that means the son to the son. That means son, S-U-N, to the S-U-N. Son, your son, leading to the son. And it means fish, profligate. We're supposed to be profligate like fish. He said, we'll make you fishers of men. And that's what the name means. Fishers of men in Ephraim. In verse 45, we repented, but Yahweh, hey, he forgives you, but you ain't getting in. In verse 46, you know we remained, I just found this out a couple of days ago, that we remained there for half the time, half our 40 years was right there in that area after the spies. We spent 19 years in that one area. That's how much angry Yahweh was up with us after the 12 spies incident. Chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. Of course, I'm just so far from reading all this because it's so beautiful and deep. Then we turned our journey into the wilderness of the way of the Reed Sea, as Yahweh spoke to me, and we skirted Mount Seir for many days. And Yahweh spoke to me, saying, you have skirted this mountain long enough, turn northward. So we're sent to go forward, and he uses the names of these stops because the names mean something. I've been telling you that since the beginning of my ministry about 8 years ago. The names mean something, and we get the knowledge from understanding the words. I'm going to skip all the way down to verse 24 and 25. We're told to engage against Sihon because our fame was out there. We just had to have faith. We were going to destroy them because they were afraid of us. In verse 30, we see that Yahweh hardened Sihon's heart. I actually want to read that because people get that misunderstood. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, would not let us pass through, because Yahweh, your mighty one, hardened his spirit and made his heart obstinate, that he might deliver him into your hand as it is this day. Let me clear it up for you, because this is just like with Pharaoh. And it says Yahweh hardened his heart. This is our English minds not understanding the Ibarit words and Ibarit mind. It's not that Yahweh made his heart hard and that's why he did what he did, because then Yahweh is guilty, because you can't blame a man if you make him do something. But what it is Yahweh allows to unroll what is already in the heart, so the man can continue to do what's in his heart anyway. Because if the man who has an evil heart gets scared to carry it out, then we don't get a chance to see that his heart is evil. That's what it is. It's no different than when you and I pray, Yahweh, strengthen me to continue in doing what you teach me. Like me, this is hard what I do every day. This is difficult what I do. I pray that Yahweh strengthens my heart. He does the same thing. He strengthens my heart to encourage it. This means encourage the heart to continue to do what it wants us to do anyway. Whereas if I give up now, you don't see the fourth fruits of this ministry. Whereas if Pharaoh gave up after seeing these plagues destroying him, then you don't see how wicked and evil he really is. So if the king of Sihon is so fearful because he saw the great miracles by the Israelites, you're not going to see that he really is evil and wicked, even though he lets them go ahead and take the land. So Yahweh has to let their hearts harden the way it already is to continue to do it so we can see it. He already knows what's in the heart. When this record says harden the heart, what it means is for us to see the heart that Yahweh already sees, okay? It doesn't mean that Yahweh did it. It lets us see what is in the heart unfurled. That's what it really means. So we go on down to verse 31 to 37, the conquest of Edom, and then chapter 3, verses 1 through 11, the conquest of Og, and then in verses 12 to 20, the inheritance given to Reuben, Gad, and half tribe of Manasseh, which I tell you they paid for it later. Because by them staying on the east side of the Jordan, they were the first ones to give into idolatry and the first ones to be captured by Assyria. So yeah, they got that beautiful land on the east side of the Jordan, but because of their location alone, they were the first ones to fall like dominoes. So location is all important. Next week, Torah portion number 45, Wayekanan, and I pleaded, Deuteronomy 3:23 through Deuteronomy 7:11. Deuteronomy 3:23 through Deuteronomy 7:11. Man, the times go by fast. Yonatan Dawid here, Yahweh for Christians. Shalom Aleichem, peace be on you.